In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your lower control arm on your Honda CR-V. It's located behind the front wheel. Using a 19mm socket, we're going to remove our wheel. And for the last one, make sure you keep a hand on it, where it doesn't fall off. I have a pair of locking pliers here, and I'm going to hold this while I take this nut off using a 14mm socket. There's a little nut on the other side that likes to spin, so you're going to have to get something in there to hold it still, whether it's a wrench or some locking pliers. I changed out my locking pliers. Let's try this. That is hot. Do not touch it. Pull that out. Put your sway bar link out of the way so you can get to everything else. Using a 36mm socket, we're going to take our nut off our axle. We're going to take this nut off. First, we're going to take off this cotter pin. So you're going to pull this out like that. While you're holding that, you're going to use a screwdriver and pull it out. Using a 17mm socket, I'm going to take off the nut on my ball joint. So we're going to get our ball joint out of the control arm. So to do that, we're going to use this tool. This is going to hold on to the control arm as we push it up with this on the stud. So let's crank it up. Now that we've freed up our ball joint on our control arm, we're going to make sure our axle is free. Using a rubber mallet, I'm just going to tap on the center here. And once it bounces back like that, it means it's pretty free. So let's pry down on our control arm and get our ball joint and knuckle out of that control arm. So I have an exhaust clamp that I put around my control arm. Somebody taught me this. And it's going to give me a little leverage when I pry down on my control arm. So you can try that at home too. So I'm going to use a big pry bar, pull down. Before you let up your lower control arm, make sure your ball joint is completely out of it. Make sure the stud is not in there anymore. Make sure your axle is free. And you can tell if it goes in and out for you. And then you're just going to move it over. Just get it right out of there. Like that. So you want to pull away the knuckle and strut assembly to get this axle out. You're also going to need a pry bar to put under this in case this is in the way to get this out. And then we strung it up with a bungee cord to keep it out of the way. Now we can get to our ball joint on our knuckle to press that out. I'm going to take out this bolt, 19mm socket. There we go. Now we're going to use an extension with a swivel 19 to get the bolt out completely. All right, so now we're going to take our bolt out, put that off to the side. So now we're just going to pry this out. Be careful not to you know, have it pop out at you too fast. It's pretty heavy, so I'm going to do one end at a time. If I can. I just wrapped a bungee cord around it just so it doesn't hit me in the shin. You can do the same. And we're just going to try to pry it out of there. There we go. We're going to put our control arm in. Line it up on both sides. Wiggle that in place. I'm going to get a punch to try to help guide it. You may need a rubber mallet just to kind of get things in place. I'm just going to pick this up a little with a pry bar underneath and hammer in the other side. All right, so once you have the other side in, now you can move this around a little bit and get your bolt in. I'm going to get this bolt started. Now I'm going to put the other one in. So I'm just going to zip this in now that I have both started. And I'm going to zip in the other side. So at this point we're going to put our ball joint in the control arm and put our nut on. Tighten that up, and then we're going to torque our control arm at ride height. So just pull your knuckle out, turn your wheel, get whatever you had in there out, and let that rest there for a sec. I'm going to let my axle down. Off the bungee. Take my nut off. I just had that on there so I wouldn't lose it. And now we are going to feed this axle in to the knuckle by pulling this away. You want to line up your axle with your spindle. There we go. All right, once you get your axle in there, you can start your nut so it doesn't fall out. Push it in a little bit. So I'm just going to put a socket on the end of my stud here and just move it out a little bit. I'm going to pull this out. Push down on my control arm. So once you get your ball joint in, you're going to start your nut. And we can tighten that down, but first I'm going to put my sway bar link back where it belongs. And now I'm going to get it in on the bottom. May have to pry up on this bar to do that. I'm also going to move that stud a little bit, make it pointing up a little bit more. Using a socket. Okay. Now we can start our nut on this side. Now that we have our nuts on our sway bar link, we're going to tighten these down. I've taken the pry bar away. We don't need that anymore. We're going to snug up our sway bar link nuts by prying down on the bar and using my battery ratchet. You may get some spinning on that inner nut, so I'm going to get a wrench to hold that still. Torque this nut to 29 foot-pounds. Just be careful you don't puncture your boot at all when you have your wrench in there. And now we're going to go up top and do that one as well. I'm around the back with my battery-operated ratchet, and I'm going to tighten this up while holding this nut still. Again, don't puncture your boot on your sway bar link. Snug that up, you're going to torque that to 29 foot-pounds as well. There we go. You need to put the vehicle at ride height. So I've jacked it up. This control arm's a little difficult because it's got a weird hill on it. So I have an exhaust clamp just in case to stop the jack from sliding. And I'm using a hockey puck instead of a piece of wood to keep it stable. You can also jack it up on the ground with a floor jack and tighten it on the floor. All right, so we're going to torque our ball joint castle nut to 43 foot-pounds first, and then we're going to slowly tighten it to 51 if needed as we try to find the hole for the cotter pin. So let's go. So that's 43. I can see my hole already, so we're going to leave it there. Now you're going to place your cotter pin through the ball joint stud with the long side down. And then you're going to fold that under and over. That, and then we're going to turn this one to the side using some wire cutters. You can also just cut that part off if you want. I like to do a little extra. And if there is excess, just cut it off. This bolt is torqued to 61 foot-pounds. And now we're going to torque the other bolt on the other side of the control arm. All right. So now we have that torqued we can lower the control arm back down. We've lowered our vehicle down. We snugged up our axle nut. And now we're going to torque it to 181 foot-pounds. We're using a pry bar to hold the wheel from spinning so that when you tighten this down, it doesn't spin on you. Make sure you ping down your nut in that groove. You can use a cold chisel or a punch, whatever gets the job done. Do a little bit more. There. Now you can throw your wheel back on and take your vehicle down to your local shop and get in alignment. We're going to reinstall our wheel. Start our lug nuts by hand. Turn my wheel down. And we're going to snug them up in a star-like pattern. We're going to torque our lug nuts to 80 foot-pounds. You're going to do that in a star-like pattern. Then I always like to double check and I go around one more time. We're good to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.